Welcome to the second YouTube video for Pruett Art. This is the second in the series, Why You Fail at Art Part 2. So, the second reason why most people fail at art or fail at creating art that is photographically realistic. So a Rorschach test. A Rorschach test is one of these things where they pour some ink on a piece of paper and fold it, and then they open it, and a psychologist or a psychiatrist asks you, what do you see here? And if you see an axe murderer or a bat or a bird or something, it's supposed to tell the psychiatrist like what's inside your mind or something like that. I don't really know the science behind a Rorschach test, but it's funny because the truth about a Rorschach test reveals more about you than, other stuff. It's not about what the picture actually is. It's what are you seeing in it. And I think that is a big reason why a lot of people fail at art, is this whole idea of projection. You're projecting onto things what you want to see, or truly the only things that you can understand. And a lot of people fail because of that. It's just because of how they're perceiving things. Okay, so let's just talk about one of the most basic art elements, which is line. A lot of people think of lines or line as a basic art element in a very rigid way. Let's just put it that way. So, line, of course, everyone is looking at lines on a piece of paper. Oh, by the way, this is my buddy, Michael Campos. Super awesome tattoo artist. If you guys are looking for good work, Michael Campos. He's got his number there. I'll post a link in the description to his Facebook. Contact him there. Just want to plug my buddy's tattoo business while I'm at this. Anyway. So, you may think of line as being like, okay, here's a straight line. Okay, here's a wiggly line. A dotted line. Really, the way that the mental framework that you need to adopt in order to understand line properly, to grow in terms of your artistic understanding is, of course, these ways. But that's sort of a surface level understanding of line. And what I'm kind of talking about is functions of line, or the reasons why line would be used in an artwork. And there are three. There are many, but there are three basic ones. Number one is descriptive. So descriptive line. When you create a descriptive line, say you're going to draw a picture of a baseball, you are kind of communicating with whoever walks up to that artwork and looks at it by telling them, hey, look, here's the edge of where that baseball is. And here's the edge of the stitch, and here's where the stitches lie, and on and on and on and on and on. You're describing it for them, and that is the purpose of this line. Okay? And so, line has a utility to it. You use it to communicate where the edge of something is, or where something ends and another thing begins. But this is a very prescriptive way of looking at line. A way of using it, okay? The second way that we look at line, and you can think of these as like, you're progressing through a development. Like if you're a little kid and you're like, you're just going to use line to draw things, a circle or whatever. You get it to the next point, and you realize that not only can line describe things, but it can also express things, such as emotions, like surprise. That would be an expressive line. Or say like, you know, like if a guy is running or something. This is a really bad drawing. And he's going really fast. And these lines behind him are like, oh wow, look at this guy, he's running really fast. That is expressing the idea of motion. Therefore, that would be an expressive line. This is the purpose of a line. This is why a line is put there, or why you're seeing a line in someone else's drawing, you know, if you're the viewer. But if you look around in nature and you start asking yourself, how do I make stuff look realistic? You're just not going to find a whole lot of descriptive lines or expressive lines. These are things that we put onto our artwork to sort of tell the viewer what we're trying you're telling the viewer the idea that you're trying to convey to them, but it's not how it actually looks in reality, okay? Most things in reality are made up, if they have any line at all, and the closer you look, you're never, I mean, in my experience, in my professional opinion, you don't find lines in nature. What you find are implied lines, the implication of line. And you know, if you're looking at this in sort of a developmental way, you would go from this to this, and then once you start asking yourself, how do I make things look real, you would come to the conclusion that there are no lines and that all lines are just implied. Okay, so if I were to hold something up in front of the camera, you could draw a line around it, but there would be no line around it. It's just, this is the edge of it, and that's where it begins, and the area, the space around it is no more. Okay, so this whole idea of implied line, and how lines are really just tools to convey ideas, and that's really all art is. It's like you're just communicating ideas in a different way. You're not writing in them, or you're not playing them in terms of music. You're at least the visual arts. You're creating an illusion. Okay, but here's the thing: you can only draw in a realistic fashion what you see. And like I said, there are no real lines. So if you can only draw what you see and you can't make lines out of it, how do you make stuff look realistic? Well, you can only see what you understand. So you have to understand stuff. Okay, so let's establish this whole idea of someone only being able to see or only being able to see or describe things that they already understand. Okay, and if you go back to the Odyssey, the Iliad, Greek literature, and you just start looking for words, you don't find the word blue. I think that Homer is describing, you can go back even to the Bible, and you don't find the word blue. Okay? In fact, in the Odyssey, Homer describes the sea as dark. He says the ocean was like wine. But he's not talking about the color blue, he's just talking about darkness, you know. Other historical writings. And in fact, whenever they look at all cultures and the development of those specific cultures' languages, they all have a very similar pattern. They have words in their literature that mean black and white, so that they can distinguish night and day. And then the first color in their language that pops up is red. And then yellow and green after that. And one of the very last things, sometimes yellow and green are interchangeable, but most of the time it's green and then yellow. And then one of the last things that comes out is blue. Why is this? Well, partially because blue is rare in nature, but also because it doesn't have a utility to our lives. We don't need to see blue as much as we need to see red, because things could be ripe like fruit. Night and day, you need to know where the sun is and if it's dark outside. But blue is not a necessity. But once you start seeing this whole idea or this whole utility or need or benefit from using that whole mental concept, suddenly they start describing it. And then they're able to see it and talk about it and openly. You can say to yourself, well, it's not like they weren't seeing it before. Of course not, but it would be like buying a new car, and then suddenly you go out on the road and everyone around you you're seeing this car everywhere. And you ask yourself, have these cars always been here? Yeah, they were there before, but you weren't looking for them. And so you did not see them. They were there. You could have seen them, but you didn't see them. And so that's the whole idea here. Stick with me, because I'm about to get to the very last little part. Why you fail at art? And it has to do with that whole idea of understanding. So when I was a teacher and I was teaching in high school, students would come to me and they would ask me things like, how do I draw hair? So I would always answer these students the same way. And they would get so frustrated with me. And they'd be like, just tell me how to draw an eye. And yeah, I can give you a series of steps to draw one specific eye in one specific way. But really, that's just a symbol that represents an eye. And no eye in nature really looks exactly like that. But I could do that if you wanted me to, And they would get tickled out of that, and they'd want to see it, and then they would practice that over and over and over. And it's not like that didn't have some sort of, they got a benefit out of that. But that was not the right way to arrive at what I was trying to teach them, and that was nowhere near the right way of learning how to see properly. And that's really what we were talking about whenever you're learning how to create realistic drawings, is how to see, ways of seeing. You need to work on how you perceive things and are able to depict them in 3 dimensions way more than you should be out there practicing hair or eyes, although that is important too. You need to learn how to view things. Don't try to define things. Don't try to give it some descriptive line around the outside, because if that is your goal, remember, you're describing the edge of something that has no lines by using a line. What you need to do instead is to just look at it as it is without defining it. You just need to accept it for the way it is. You'll get a lot of people asking you, specifically in like tattoos and stuff, like they'll give you a picture of one of their loved ones, and they'll be wearing, the wedding ring or the diamond necklace. But in the picture, it's just a blurry blob. And so you'll show them, the sketch of it with that blurry blob, and they're like, hey, wait a second, I know that's the necklace. I want it to look exactly like the necklace. And of course you do, but the simple solution is like, you're unable to draw something that you can't see, and you're just kind of putting symbols in place of something that ought to be there. And you see a lot of other artists do this, but the point of it is you're just symbol making. You're just making symbols. It doesn't really, you're not really drawing things in a realistic fashion. So to sum up, in closing, art is an illusion. So your goal as an artist should not be, and I'm just really speaking about those artists of us that want to create drawings that look like reality. Photographically realistic art that looks like what you're trying to create. So art is an illusion. Your goal as an artist should not be to make whatever you're creating look exactly like real life. That should not be your goal. Even though if you are perceiving it authentically as it really exists, then realism will be the result. Okay? Your goal, instead of trying to make things look exactly like they look in reality, your goal should be, because you know what you're dealing with is the perception of the viewer. Your goal should be to evoke that image in your viewer's mind, that idea in your viewer's mind. You want to directly communicate with whoever is walking up to your artwork to have an emotional reaction, to have this visceral response to whatever you have left as evidence of your process, your art making process. That should be your goal. Okay? And if it isn't your goal, that is most likely why you're failing at art as an artist. And that is why you fail at art, part 2. Now, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. What else? Comment, follow, all of the above. Hit the notification bell. And thank you for watching. I appreciate all 29 of you that subscribed last week. Let's go for a double number on that this week. And be looking for our video usually on Mondays, once a week, or once every other week. Thank you. We'll talk to you later. And how should we close these, Harley?
Have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.
Have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.